What's up, everybody? It's your favorite surprise, his favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the Fansproject Warbot Dai Z. Now, I had no idea this was coming to me, no clue whatsoever, and I gotta tell you, I'm absolutely floored, and let me explain to you why. Anybody that watches this channel knows that I've been very vocal in my criticisms of Fansproject throughout the last couple years.
To Bobby Skullface from Fansproject. Oh my. This can't be right, can it? I better phone a friend. P.O.
Yeah, what's up?
What's up, man? Hey, are you missing a box?
Not one that I'm aware of.
Because I got this box and I kind of feel like I don't deserve this box.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. But nah, it's all you. Go for it.
Wow. Guess it's on me then.
That's not to say that pieces haven't come along that I have loved. I've absolutely adored their Roadbuster. Smart Robin is still, in my opinion, one of the best third-party pieces ever made. And, contrary to many, I really liked their Quick Switch in Six Night, when many people did not. But I've been very vocal about kind of their fall from grace. So you can imagine my surprise when this showed up at my door, courtesy of them. So I want to take a moment and say, I think we need to stand up and give them a round of applause for sending me something like this in spite of those criticisms. I could have very easily played the game, right? I could have very easily said, this is great and that is great and this is great and that is great when it may not be the case. But I never played that game. And they still had enough faith in their product to send it to me to get an unbiased and true review. So I take my hat off to them. I've never met Fansproject. I've never spoken to them. I don't know anything about them other than the toys that I've seen, and I've seen some good ones and I've seen some bad ones. But they've definitely made me take my hat off to them for this, especially in spite. I mean, it was just 2 weeks ago that I talked at length about, you know, Fansproject's kind of fall. So enough about this situation. Thank you, Fansproject. It says something about your character to me anyway. I hope everybody else can see it as well. And now it's time to get into this guy. And there is some bad here. There's some good too, but we're going to talk about it. Ultimately, we'll save it for the final thoughts. Accessory-wise, he comes with the gun, the sword, the wings, and the shield that you see here. So I'm going to take those off and we're going to go through them. Just so you know, he holds them both well. However, the gun needs to be held in this hand because of... Can you see that? The groove is in this side and not in this side. And he has a corresponding tab. So it needs to go in this hand. Otherwise, he's holding it backwards. However, he does hold both well because not only does it slide through in the slot, so to speak. But once you get it in there, and it's not the easiest, especially when you got butterfingers like myself, and it tabs in on top of the groove. So it's well done in that respect. He holds both just fine, but we're going to get them undone and we're going to talk about them. Well, some of it. So here's the gun. This flips up. We'll talk about that later. Nice sculpt work. Has like the kind of almost flecked gunmetal gray finish. Looks good enough. Could have stood to use a little bit more paint on it, but overall it's fine. You add in the red, orange. What am I, colorblind? The orange accent. Shout out to the colorblind people watching this right now that are like, is it red or orange? Nah, he's totally messed it up for me. But I think it breaks it up enough, gives it enough character, and kind of differentiates it enough from itself to look well. On the other hand, we have this sword, which is extremely impressive. Has the bright silver kind of flecked finish, great sculpt work, great design, the orange paint, the black paint, all done sharp as a tack. This, of course, has the slot only on one side as well, but it works in both hands because this is the same as that, whereas this is a totally separate situation. Now, his other accessory that we'll talk about briefly now, more later, is this. This is a shield, pegs on, boom, boom, to boom, boom, and it's well enough. We're gonna, like I said, we got more to talk about with this, but the paint is clean, the white is clean, the red is clean. It's done well enough, so that's cool. The way that this white is done on this blue is actually it works out really well because you can't really like blob it in there inside those indentations, so it almost looks like it's like a faux panel lining almost. It gives it that sense of depth without actually doing it, so that's a clever move on their part, design-wise or paint-wise. He comes with these wings. We're going to talk about them more later as well, but they tab in here. It's not the best tab-in system, and these separate here. So my advice to you, if you pick this fella up, is to separate it and then clip it in, because it just gives you a little bit more leverage to kind of push there without potentially causing, you know, any trouble. And then this slides in there. And then once that's in there, then you can go ahead and tab this piece in. And if you're an idiot like I am, you can just kind of use your color by numbers red stripe to kind of get you right. And then this articulates on a hinge here, doesn't swivel. We're going to take this off now, on both sides, just so we can talk about the figure without anything getting in our way. But it doesn't impede articulation at all. So the head, really cool sculpt, has red paint and silver paint and the orange plastic different pieces to break up the aesthetic. It's done really well. It's on a single ball joint. So you know how I feel about ball joints, but up to here on a figure of this scale, I think it's fine. Down to there, and then the swivel is intact. So all that works well. It does get a little jammed up between the earpieces against here, but you just have to make them look slightly down in order to get around it. Not a huge deal. Let's talk about the torso detailing. So we have white paint, and it's done extremely clean on both sides and around this armpit section. So that's all well and good. This piece is removable. We'll get to that, but this has white and red paint on it. The red on the black looks a little dull here compared to here, but it's not terrible. And when they get the chance to add more of it, it looks better. So this is a little bit thinner than that, but that's all good. Orange paint on here looks really good, as does the silver, so that all works very well. Also, the orange detailing's in there. There is a lot of paint on this fella, and it's done really well. So let's talk about articulation. We got a swivel, both at the diaphragm and at the waist, so tons of articulation there. Ab crunch, negative, but that's kind of a bonus in the world of Transformers, isn't it? But we do have two swivels there, so that is cool. For the shoulders, we have a universal joint, ratcheted, so you get the around and the up. The up is relatively limited. You're only getting to there. So that's a bit of a bummer, and that's on both sides. And there's nothing, I don't want to, you know. So now we talk about this. I don't know if you guys, I know my like non-Transformer videos never get the same amount of views. So I don't know how you guys, if you guys know how I feel about stuff like this, but bigger characters that are a bit more imposing, I'm okay with a little bit more limited articulation. This is a little too limited for my taste, but overall, it's not as big of a deal if it was like a smaller, stealthy character. Like when the Hulk's shoulders aren't as articulated, or the Hulk has a single joint elbow instead of a double joint elbow, it doesn't bother me because it kind of lends to the characterization of Banner. So here we go. Bicep swivel, that works fine. Double jointed elbow getting you the full Monty pretty much. And then a wrist swivel, and then the fingers are all on a base pen knuckle. Red paint there, white paint there, white paint here, red paint there. All that's done really well, and articulation is the same for the other side. For the hips, we have ratcheted universals, so ratchets out. You got to watch these pieces, but overall you can get it to about there. And ratchets forward to an insane level. Back, if you're that guy, to the same range. Thigh swivel. Built into the bottom of the universal joint, which does drop down a fair amount, and translucent plastics. There are some translucent plastics used throughout for accents, and they look pretty good. Here, this looks a bit better than this, but this looks good, and there's some more on the back. So that's all good. Knee, double jointed. It's like a soft ratchet on the bottom and nothing on the top, getting you the full range though, so that works well. And then feet, we got, basically it's just the toe. We got a slight problem with the foot, and we'll get to that. By the way, the orange paint and red paint here look spectacular. So it's, alright, so there's no real ankle articulation. Everything comes into the foot, which is not the best. But we have a toe tilt, which acts as an ankle tilt down, slightly up, and then a swivel, which gets you the rocker. Which is fine, but it's definitely a cheat. It's like a faux ankle. But because it's not like this piece is sitting in front of the big block piece, like that would fill up this whole gap, it's not as bad, but it's still something that needs to be pointed out. This figure is, he's not the heaviest because he doesn't have die cast and stuff, but when you get him all armed up, there is a significant amount of weight on this fella. And I do wish there was a heel spur that flipped out that allowed you to kind of, I guess that might work. I haven't tried that. Let me try that. Oh, it works much better. Disregard last. That works fine. I never rotated this piece out. I always kept it back, and he's like a little bit back heavy. You know, you can get him to stand, but you gotta have the feet just right. With these pieces flipped down, yeah, that definitely adds support. So disregard that. That's good to go. Is that black paint? You rarely see black paint. I feel like that looks good. So let's get our, I'm not sure what type of masters these are. Power masters maybe? Out. You just need to make room by flipping these pieces up, pulling that out. Pull out the ones on the shoulders as well, and then you can close the shoulders up. And if you like this look, you can use it and you can flip these around to the side and add the wings on, and that gives you a different look for this fella. We'll do the Power Master guy now. I'm not sure if that's what it is. Flip the head up, bring the feet down, and then these pieces are on a hinge. Let's get the feet a little bit better. They fold out and around, bringing the whole thing around, twist the head, and this guy is in service. We'll talk about this fairly quickly. So just white paint for the eyes and face there. Everything else is plain on the body, and then we have blue paint and white paint, orange paint and white paint added there, and maybe in black paint as well. So a fair amount of paint on these, to be fair. I'm trying to figure out a way that's useful to show you all, and they all transform the same way, obviously. But we have we'll do articulation on this one. This is a different one. Ball jointed head. So you get down a bit, up a bit, and then the swivel. This one is a little tighter than the others. Ball jointed shoulders, limited out once again. Up and down is no problem. And then we have a hinged or swivel elbow, getting you just about 90 degrees. Ball jointed hips, get you out to there, front and back to there, and then a knee on a hinge as well, getting you 90 degrees. Now we're going to separate it. So open here, and then you can pull this whole back piece off. It goes in and up, so vice versa. I mean, in and down. So you got to pull down and then out. This piece then separates from. Oh, it's down here. Not the easiest thing to pull apart, but not the most difficult either. Okay, so we're going to do the arms first. Bring this white piece down, just hinge it everywhere it will go. Same with this, flip this around, but give yourself a little wiggle room, that'll help you later. Fold the shoulders all the way back around to the other side. Make sure that, elbows, rock them down here. And then fold the back part of the chair up and plug it into the forearms, and that creates his little seat. And then these you can kind of, I think you can have those any way you want, and then these will hold the wings. This piece comes around and holds the shoulders together, push those down. Then you can take your wings, take the small piece of the wing and plug it in there and there. It has like a little notch. Alright, and that's one. You can set this to the side. Okay, so then you take this piece. This is tabbed in pretty well. Untab it, bring it around, rotate it around, and that tabs in back to the front. Then you swivel the waist, open up this piece, fold these down, fold that back up. You can add this these wings on. That's one thing I forgot to mention. Should have known it was too close, too good to be true. It'll help you line it up also. Now this one is probably the most challenging one. You got to pull this up. This is latched into the here. I've already pulled it out because it is. Let's see if I can't show you. it is kind of a bear. It's more problematic to get it in than out, but I've already got it out, so we're keeping it out. And then you're going to pull these hips around to the back, and you want them kind of even, which is also slightly frustrating, just in the sense of keeping everything appropriate. You want the knees to the back because all of this is going to double back onto itself. Pull the feet down, they'll extend. Flip these orange pieces up, and you might have to rotate your heel spurs in order to get your feet all the way up. Pull the treads down, and in the end you want these pieces here to lock in there, and then you want these orange tabs to interlock, those pieces to tab, these pieces to tab right there, and then these pieces to tab right there. So it's an awful lot to kind of sort out. But let's give it a shot on camera. All right. So I wonder. Yeah. All right. Okay, and then we'll fold this down, interlock it there, and then you can fold this chair out. And that's that fella. So let's get them cleaned up. We'll take a look at them. So there they all are. And I think they're pretty cool. Like, you know, I think they do what they're supposed to do well. We'll talk about gimmicks. Of course, they all get in there some kind of way. He just sits in there straight-legged out. You can kind of bend his legs a bit, you know. But, and you have this little bit here. You know, this little pointy bit. And I think that that's kind of fine. This guy sits in, and his back actually plugs into the back of this, so he's much more secure. I wish the treads locked in place here. I found that a bit frustrating. But other than that, I kind of dig this as well. Nothing rolls, of course, and there's no landing gear on the jets, but what are you going to do? And then this guy just kind of squats in there from what I can tell. And then you can plug this gun in there, and I don't know, I think that they did that fairly well. You know, it's nothing special per se. You know, it's not like it's anything spectacular, but I think for what they had, and the kind of design of the bot that they were able to get this out of it, I think it's pretty well done. Super special jet mode. So get your shield, bend these, keep them open at a good angle though, and then fold these, fold that down. So I wonder if, yeah, that's even cleaner. Let's do that. And then this is kind of what you want. Take the jet, we'll get rid of this fella for a second, and you kind of wrap this around and encompass it, and these tabs here go into the side white piece right there. And that's done. We'll put him back in there. That may be off or not. This one's the easiest. Remove this, and flip this piece around to the bottom. And then this one's kind of the most complicated. So take your guy out. Let's see what we can do here. Open this up, split this, close your translucent pieces back up, flip this, bring these down, rotate the legs out, and I think you want to bring these around. Like that. Oh, quick correction. Spoke too soon. Rotate these around, and then you can tab. That solidifies it. That makes a lot more sense. There. All right. So you take this connection here and this connection here. There. Not too terrible. And then you take these holes here and these pegs here. And this is where it gets a little touch and go. You know, I am not totally sure that it's not best to connect this first. Alright, so I got it. It was definitely the bee of the bunch, but I got it. My legs have come undone here, but it's just fitting it in clearance-wise to get that in. Once you got it in, it's solid as a rock. Not coming undone. The last thing you want to do, and of course, like my legs came undone here, but that's, you know, that's okay. Untab, or it's not really tab, but bring this around, and then that comes to the front, and then you just kind of sit your fellas in there. So, let's do, and I'm just kind of haphazardly doing it just to show you guys. 2 and 3, and then you take your gun, and these 2 tabs go on there. And that's done. And that is pretty impressive when I don't drop it like an idiot. But it is, it's pretty impressive. It's a good little thing. But yeah, it's interesting. Now, if I took my time, I could get these guys to sit in there a lot tighter and stuff. I just want to kind of show you guys what it's all about. But pretty cool. Looks cool. Has a good look. Tons of paint. Break up the color work. And the gun is pretty threatening. And the guy sitting behind it is pretty smart. And then it has this piece here. And I don't know. I think it works. I think it works fairly well. And size comparison wise, there he is with a Voyager, a Deluxe, and Maketoys tailgate for a point of reference. Final thoughts. Let's get into it. We have to do the negatives, so let's start there. The negatives are, first and foremost, that shoulder articulation. That should have been sorted out. I can't, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a designer, but I can't seem to figure out why it would have been designed in a manner that limited it as such. It just doesn't seem to make sense to me. I feel like nothing would have been lost by widening that range. The other thing that I would point out is that one space where you have to connect the 2 major components of the larger jet is a bit frustrating and almost feels like you got to fit 5 tons of stuff into a 4-pound bag. You familiar with that phrase? That's what it kind of reminds me of. The last thing that I would point out as far as my issues with this would be the wings. Well, all of it, to be fair. These larger pieces, the system in which it clips on, that little peg, isn't the best. It's not the easiest to clip on, and it doesn't feel the most stable. And then this piece that clips onto the wing, it's stable enough on the wing, but when you have to connect it to the jet pieces, it's a little bit frustrating, and it doesn't always fit properly, and it doesn't always seem like you have a firm connection where you want it. But the positives here far outweigh the negatives, and that's a breath of fresh air in regards to Fansproject. Materials are good. The materials have never been bad in their defense. The accessories are all cool, especially the little Power Masters, and they're interchangeable. As you can see, the chest piece I've chosen here is different than the one that was in the previous shot. So you can kind of customize it to your liking. And that's what brings us to the major win for this thing, which is the playability. It is fun. It's fun to mess with, it's fun to take apart, it's fun to put back together. There's just a lot of components to it that make it an enjoyable experience overall. The fun factor is something that lacks in a lot of toys, especially in the transforming department when you start getting into the higher end stuff, and this one manages to hold on to that. Now, let me talk about how this feels, because I think that that's important to this conversation. This feels like the next release we should have got after Nightbeat. After they did their Nightbeat, we should have got this. This feels like it's part of that world. Like, this feels like it's part of that drive that Fansproject had. Like, it feels one with that in a way. I don't know how else to describe it. Their Crocs to me always felt like less. Their Dinobots had weird issues that I wouldn't expect from Fansproject, but this doesn't have those issues. Take, for instance, Sludge's floppy joints that came with them. There's no floppy joints here. That's not an issue. Take the oversimplification and shortcuts that were used in Crocs. There's none of those things here. And that is refreshing. This is cool. And I'm going to have this guy on my IDW shelf because that's where he kind of fits in best. And I think that this is where Fansproject should have been, a year ago. We should have got something of this caliber. So I don't know what's going on with them. I don't know if they've got some new wind under their wings. I don't know if they're making a comeback. But if they are, this is a nice piece to do it with. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.